Good morning. Today I want to talk about words, specifically two words, molding and casting. And the reason I want to talk about those two words is there's just an amazing amount of confusion as to what the words mean and how they're used. So let's get into it. What's the point to molding and casting? What's the fundamental reason you mold and cast something? Basically, you're making a copy of something. And it could be you're making a copy of it because the original is in clay or wax or some other soft material and you want to preserve a permanent copy of it, like in resin or some other hard material, or you just want to make a bunch of something, a lot of copies. Either way, that's what molding and casting is. Fundamentally, it's about making a copy of something. So what is a mold? I have a simple definition of what a mold is. It's a container that has a specific shape, and the purpose to that container is you pour a liquid into it, and that liquid hardens, and when it hardens, it takes on the shape of the container. That's what a mold is. And I limit that definition to that. It doesn't matter what kind of liquid you pour into it. You can pour resin into it. You could pour wax into it. You could pour plaster of Paris or other investment type stuff in there like hydrocal. You could pour cement into it. It really doesn't matter what liquid you're pouring into the container. But as long as you've made a container that has a specific shape and you want to make castings from that container. So that's what a mold is. So for instance, this is a mold. This is not a casting, this is a mold. This happens to be a silicone rubber, a tin-based silicone rubber mold, and it's the thing that I most commonly do in my shop. And sure enough, it's really a cup. I mean, you could fill it with water and drink from it because it is a container. It's a cup, but it has a specific case. In this case, this cup is shaped exactly like the Looney Tunes character, Tasmanian Devil. This is a mold. It's not the only kind of mold. If you look at the video I did last week, you'll remember I did an open back silicone blanket mold, and I filled it with fiberglass. So silicone molds can take all kinds of shapes, but fundamentally they all have in common, they are containers of a specific shape. There are other kinds of molds that you could run into in a shop. For instance, this mold. This is was machined out of a block of blue wax, and it is a mold of a hand. And so it's got everything you need. It's got a pour funnel, it's got the sprues, it's got everything. It goes together. In this case, it's got bolt holes. You bolt it all together and you pour it. So this is what's called a rigid tool. In fact, in the old days of pattern making, molds were called tools. And this would be a rigid tool because it's not flexible. This is a flexible tool. This is a rigid tool. Another example of a rigid tool that I make often. Remember last week I cast a weight base for Jacob in fiberglass and epoxy resin. You can use that exact same process for making molds. This is a mold of this shape, and you can see that it is a mold. It's got a fill hole. In this case, it's a rotational mold. So this would be a mold that you'd mount to a rotation machine and make a hollow casting. In fact, this is also a rotational mold, and you mount it on a machine and you rotate it. Inside this mold is a casting. Casting comes out of it like that. One of the things about this, one of the characteristics of this mold is there are no undercuts. You can't have anything that would lock the rigid part inside the mold. It has to be able to pop out, just lift right out. And so you can't have any undercuts. When you do prototyping and you do any kind of commercial work, one of the things that you have to be aware of is how is the casting going to pull? And when they mean pull, and so we talk about pull a lot. Are we going to do a top to bottom pull? Are we going to do a side to side pull? And what that means is when you open a mold, you have to pull it apart. That's all it means. But if you're doing, say, a toy prototype or you're doing anything for production, you have to take into account when you design the sculpt how it's going to pull. So you can't design any undercuts that would prevent it or lock it into the mold and prevent it from pulling. So one of the kind of important things for you to keep in mind is if you're working, if you're sculpting or you're making things and you want to make molds of it, you really have to understand the molding process, because that way you have a much better chance of making successful castings. Your molds will make successful castings because you understand exactly what it is you're doing. So we have this casting. So now let's talk about what castings are. Everything you see on the table in front of me is a casting. I think that the reason that there's so much confusion about the word casting is that the word casting is both a verb and a noun. So this is a mold. When you're pouring resin, liquid resin into a mold, you're making a casting. And then the thing that you pull out of the mold is also a casting. So that confuses people, and it just makes it hard to keep the words straight, makes it hard to keep the nomenclature straight. You know, it's all about the lingo. It's all about the jargon of your particular industry. And you just got to know which is which. But all of these things on the table are castings. Some of them, like this, is a hollow casting. Just so you know, that Mickey here, our good friend Mickey, he's also a hollow casting. He's Featherlight, and he's a hollow casting as well. I rotocast this piece. So you can rotationally mold really detailed things. This is a piece I did for Disney a while ago. But this is a hollow casting. On the subject of hollow casting, look at, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this? I don't know if you can really see in there, but look how uniform and regular that wall is. It's just a beautiful thin wall casting. I don't know which camera will show that better, but if you look at these hollow castings, they're really, really, really beautiful inside. They're just like perfect even wall thickness. So this is a hollow casting or a rotational casting. So the word casting has two definitions. It means pouring liquid resin into a mold, but it also means the thing that you pull out of a mold. Both of them are castings. There's solid castings. There's open back castings. This is just poured into an open back to make these little dots. Same with this. This is an open back casting. It's at a flat back, but you can see the level of detail that you can hold inside of castings. Castings are amazing. I love doing that. You know, after all these years, I still get a kick out of pulling a casting out of a mold. You know, one of the reasons that casting and molding get confused all the time is, if you think about it, they're actually the same thing. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's say you have let's see, what do I want to draw? I'm just going to draw a beautiful, beautiful dude. Lovely. So we have our beautiful guy here, bust. And by the way, when you have this original thing that you've made, this fabulous work of art, which, let's be honest, come on, when was the last time you saw something quite that fabulous? What's it called? What is this thing called? It just goes by. That's another thing about this is that the original goes by a million different names. For instance, it's the pattern, it's the model, it's the master, it's a sculpture, it's an item, it's an object, but it's an original. So that's the other thing. There's 100 million names for there's 1,000 names for everything. So you've got your beautiful original master, and you're loving it, and you want to make 5,000 of them because you're sure you're going to make a fortune selling them. So the first thing you have to do before you start to make the mold is say, how am I going to orient this? What orientation is this thing going to lay in the mold? One obvious orientation would be to have the resin come in through the neck. So we're going to put it on a plywood base of some sort, and then we have to put it in a mold box or a mold case. So it may need to be bigger. There we go. It's got to clear out. So then we have a mold case. And you know me, I like my mold cases to be round. I don't like them to be square because it's just better. You know, I talk about how making a casting is you pour a liquid that's going to harden into a form, into a mold. When you're making this mold, you're doing the exact same thing. You're pouring a liquid into a container to make a mold. But that's exactly the same thing you're doing when you're making Casting, so, see what I mean? People get confused. For me, to avoid confusion, I always call the container that makes a mold, I call it a case. I call it the mold case. I don't refer to the mold case as a mold because, I mean, there's just too much confusion going on. So this is a mold case. So now you've got this mold case and you've got the thing inside the mold and you want to fill it up with rubber. But the big problem is, let me get a stick here. So now you're going to fill this thing up with rubber, and so you want to pour the rubber in, as we know, from the top. What you don't want to do is pour the rubber so that it blankets and falls down. And the reason for that is, if you do that, if you just pour the rubber all over willy-nilly, all over the piece, if you do that, I guarantee you, you are going to trap air in all kinds of critical little locations. You're going to trap bubbles all over the place, all under the undercuts, all in places like this, all in here, all in there. You're just going to catch bubbles. So you don't want to do that. So what do we do? You've seen me do it a bunch of times. You pour the rubber in, down the container, and you let it fill up from the bottom and let it rise up. And if you do that, because here's the thing, the other reason that molding and casting are the same is the fundamental action that you're doing is you've got to get the rubber or the resin into the container. But in order to do that, you've got to get the air out of the container. And most of the time, we don't have injection molding machinery or any kind of fancy equipment to help us do that. What's going to do it for us is gravity and letting the fact that the air is going to sit, that the rubber is heavier than the air, so the rubber is going to flow at the bottom and rise, and it's just going to push the air above it out of the way. If you trap air in pockets and bubbles, you're done, because you're never going to get it out of there. And by the way, you would say, yeah, but you have pressure pots. You see me using my pressure pots, and you go, well, you can just put your things in the pressure pot and crush all that air out. It doesn't actually work that way. The pressure pot is good at crushing out tiny bubbles, but if you have big voids, like if you have a big air void right in there, or if you have a big air void anywhere there's an underhang, or a big air void here in the nostril, or here under the ears, anywhere in the underneath parts, if you have big voids or big air bubbles there, the pressure pot might make those a little smaller, but it won't get rid of them. The major reason I use my pressure pots is I buy rubber and resin in 5-gallon buckets, because for me that's the most economical. But that also means I store it, sometimes for a long time, sometimes for years. And the stuff just doesn't store that long. The manufacturer only recommends you store it for a brief period of time. The main reason for that is the longer you store resin especially, the more likely it is to foam up, because it's collected moisture from the atmosphere. So we use the pressure pots to be able to use old resin. And that's really the truth about those pressure pots. Pouring a mold and pouring a casting is the exact same action. You're trying to get the material into a container and make a perfect bubble-free imprint of the object that you're trying to make, while at the same time you have to push the air out of the container. So everything you do is directed toward that goal. So if you have an object, like if you have, I'm gonna just draw the most magnificent thing you've ever seen. So let's say you want to make this beautiful camel. You're going to have a vent coming off of each high point. So you could say, well, this will be my pour funnel right here. Only we're going to pour it with resin. So let's change colors because we're talking about resin. So now the resin's going to flow in, and it's going to flow to the bottom. It's going to flow in, and it's going to fill from the bottom, and it's going to go up into these points. And if you don't have a vent here and here, you're not going to get the air out of the mold. You have to have vents. So the whole art of both molding and casting is getting the air out of the way. That's really the whole deal. And I really do believe that that's what causes so much confusion in people as to, well, how am I doing this? What am I doing? What's a mold? What's a casting? it all seems very complicated and confusing to a lot of people. And I know that because I talk to them and I listen to their questions, and everyone's confused as to what to do. So I don't know. Does this help? I have no idea if any of this is helpful to you guys. Let me know in the comments below. This video, I just wanted to clear this little thing up. I don't know, is this video just way too elementary for most of you, or is it helpful to you? Let me know in the comments. I'd really appreciate hearing from you. I get most of my ideas, or a lot of my ideas anyway, from feedback from you, and that's going to continue on. If you liked the video, hit that like button. If you didn't like it, let me know why in the comment and give me ideas for something that you want to see. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.